Alright guys, I'm back with another Top 20 Spotlight. Today we're going to be covering Wizard's Crown, one of my favorite RPGs, early RPGs that I played a long time ago. This is a tactical slash strategy RPG. I'm also going to be including its sequel, Eternal Dagger, in this video. I'm not going to show any footage though. These are the first two games as a teenager that I was actually able to complete. So guys, I hope you enjoy. Of course, this is the Atari 8-bit version, the one I played when I was a kid. It was released on multiple systems, but the only three computer systems back in the day that you could play Wizard's Crown and its sequel, Eternal Dagger, were the Atari 8-bit, Commodore 64, and the Apple II computers. In Wizard's Crown and Eternal Dagger, there were three different views you could basically run around in. First is the overworld view, which I consider the town here to be part of the overworld view because it really doesn't change. It's from kind of a top-down view. The second view is when you zoom into the tactical combat view, and the third is when you actually enter into different buildings. And as you can see, we just entered into combat. I am going to do a quick combat here. It normally lasts about 20 to 30 seconds as opposed to 30 to 45 minutes when you do tactical combat. I'll do that next in my next battle. And honestly, one of the best things about this game is the loot. When you actually fight, let's say 20 creatures or 20 like humanoids, there's normally 20 weapons and 20 pieces of armor that you can sort through to pick up. So let's say you're in a mood just to be able to kind of do a hack and slash. You can do quick combat and just go around and just try to find really good loot. I love being able to do that. Or if you're just kind of in a tactical combat and you want to take it slow, you can actually, spend a lot of time in the tactical combat view as well. We'll say hit points were handled in a really weird way in Wizard's Crown and Eternal Dagger. There was normal injury, serious injury, normal bleeding, serious bleeding, and hit points, or life force. So Priest had quite a bit to do as far as healing. You always want to make sure you kind of match up. If it was normal healing, you would want to use the normal healing spell, because otherwise, if you did like heal all injuries, it used quite a bit more magic points. And speaking of classes, there were 5 different classes you could play in this skill-based game. Yes, I said skill-based. So each class had quite a few individual and specific skills that class could only get. So there were sorcerers, priests, fighters, rangers, and thieves. The class, how you picked it, depended on your intelligence. So let's say you had 13 intelligence, you had 13 points you could spend towards that class. Each class had a specific number or point value for it. So sorcerers had 11, priests had 7, fighters had 5, rangers and thieves had 3. You could also multi-class in this game. It just depended on how much your intelligence was. Alright guys, this time we're going to fight a group of thieves in tactical combat. First you begin with the placement phase. That's where you get to position all your characters before actual combat begins. Alright guys, and combat begins. I will say this is probably one of the most complex battle systems that I have ever played. You can't just move your character in front or next to an enemy. You actually have to maneuver them and then make sure your character is facing that creature to be able to attack it. So you have to use the arrow keys and make yourself facing that creature, which actually uses some of your action points as well. Another fun fact about the battle system of Wizard's Crown and Eternal Dagger, this heavily influenced the Gold Box series of games, as the developers that made this were also some of the ones that worked on the original Polar Radiance game. Early role-playing games like Wizard's Crown and Eternal Dagger really were very light on the story. Wizard's Crown, basically you assemble a party to track down the magical crown that was stolen 500 years previously by an evil wizard who locked himself down deep south in his castle. And it's your job to go down there and retrieve the crown. Eternal Dagger, there is a portal that's open that demons are spilling out of, and you must find the Eternal Dagger and close the portal once and for all. When Wizard's Crown came out in 86, 87, the game was heralded by the reviewers for being an amazing game, for its tactical combat. One of the minuses they mentioned, though, was the lack of any kind of puzzles and the heavy emphasis on hack and slash. Well, you know what? That's why I love this game, is because of the hack and slash that's involved. I would say my only negative would be for the first game, Wizard's Crown, as when you entered structures and buildings, you had to control all 8 characters, which made it very cumbersome. So what I would normally do would be stash 7 of the 8 characters at the entrance and have the one that had the best scan awareness ability, use them to maneuver around the dungeon until I found an exit. And as soon as you entered into another part of the dungeon, all your characters would magically teleport right to the beginning of the next area. That was fixed in Eternal Dagger, as when you entered structures, you basically had just one icon that you would control all the characters at the same time, which made it much easier. Another really cool thing about Wizard's Crown and Eternal Dagger, there was a day and night cycle as well. Specifically in Wizard's Crown, you never really wanted to move too fast in the game, because if you tried to leave the city north or south, you get your ass handed to you pretty quickly by the monsters that roam the areas. You wanted to take it slow, basically fight in the city, clear it out. You'll make some money once you clear them out, and the mayor will come and give you some money for clearing the city out, and that's a good pointer to let you know when you can actually move on from that area. Also, you really had to pay attention to the day and night cycle, because you did not want to be stuck outside of the city at night, because they will not let you in. The gates close and you're stuck out there until morning, and most of the time that meant death. Also, the game had an amazing magical armor and weapon system. There were 3 different types of magical items. There were, or magical weapons I should say. First was the elemental magical weapons, which went from magic, frost, flaming, lightning, and the strongest being storm. There were life drain weapons, which went from dark, doom, soul, demon, and death being the strongest. Then there was also +1 to +5 weapons. Then there were also some non-magical weapons, which went from fine, very fine, sharp, and very sharp, which you did need a non-magical weapon because there were some creatures that could not be hurt by magical items. Also, for armor, you had your +1 to +5 armor. Then you also had different specific pieces of gear that focused heavily on like blunt or cutting or thrusting kinds of damage as well. So there were wizard's gear, which is probably the best. There was dwarven, elven, and reinforced armor. Also in the city there was an enchantress, if you could find her, that would take each piece of gear, either weapon or armor, up 1 step. So if it was a +4 weapon or armor, it would take it up to +5, and if it was a magic or life-draining weapon, it would actually take it up to the next step as well. In the upper left-hand corner in the northern part of the map, there was a laboratory that you could use your alchemy skill to make potions. Most people consider this useless, and I honestly never did it as well. So yeah, I mean it's there to be used, but again I never actually used it much. I still hold this game very near and dear to my heart. Again, this is probably the first exposure that I ever had to a role-playing game, and just thoroughly enjoyed it. Me and my best friend in high school beat both these games. He'd come over to my house from time to time, and I would bring my Atari over to his house. And we would, play these games for hours upon end, all through the night. This is also where I got my first exposure to the Ultima series, which is Ultima 3, which is still my favorite Ultima game as well. An early strategy in Wizard's Crown to amass money is basically when you fight all these creatures, 20, 30 at a time. You basically take the best weapons and armors that you find, you gather them all up until you're bursting at the seams, you take them up to the shop and you sell them, and you just keep doing this over and over again. Again, that's how you build your money up in Wizard's Crown. Well guys, I think it's time to wrap this up. I think we got one little guy left. After I beat him, I think we're going to close this video out. Again guys, thank you very much for watching.